Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Power Talk on Millennium TV 24. And I'm your host, Eric Stevenson. We have a great day, and we have two great guests on our show today, which is a great start because it's our first show. And we have a great topic that I think is well-deserving to discuss today. On my left here, I have Mr. Greyay Thompson with the National Decarceration Movement, who will go into some topics about dealing with and addressing crime with our young and preventing the high rate of incarceration of our young in prisons, where they need to be in schools and being educated and being productive citizens and making our communities safer. And we have on my right here Ms. Kiesha-Nccroskey from Seeds for Growth. It's an organization well needed. We need many more like it, but she's tackling the sex trafficking of our young children and young women being used for trafficking, for prostitution, and all of these things that we do not want nor accept. And she provides a great host of services addressing this and housing the runaways, etc. And we'll get into it and talk about it. So welcome, viewers and listeners, to our first day of our show. And we plan to amp it up as we go on in the weeks to keep it interesting and keep the viewers listening. So with that, I'm going to start with my left with Mr. Greyay Thompson. Mr. Thompson, why don't you tell the listeners what's the purpose of your organization?
First and foremost, I'd like to thank you, sir, for giving me the opportunity to speak to your viewing audience. I'd also like to thank the network. Firstly, my organization is called the National Decarceration Network, and what it's designed to do is to analyze the underlying social economic factors that are fueling mass incarceration and crimes in communities, particularly of color. Unlike many other organizations which provide services to formerly incarcerated people, I would like to look at the underlying causes of that. When I read the statistics from the federal government, which says that 1 out of every 3 Black youth will wind up in prison, that is a very disturbing trend, which means that 10-year-old children who are attending school, one out of 3 of them will wind up incarcerated. So I designed this program not just to help those who have been formerly incarcerated, but also to find ways and measures to prevent future incarceration. I often talk about a narrative, right, that I think that clearly shows why we need to get involved. There was a man who jumped into a river to save drowning children. And he places the child on the river bank just to find out that there's another child drowning. He jumps into water to rescue that child, but then there's another child. So there's a passerby. He calls to him. He said, "Sir, will you help me save these drowning children?" He said, "Well, I'm on the other side. I'm on my way to the other side of the river to find out who's throwing these children in." And I think that that's important for us to focus on finding a solution to prevent children from being statistics of the Department of Correction. I'd like to touch off on the fact that crime is precipitated because of certain social factors. In fact, Black criminality has been introduced into the United States Constitution, Article 4 of that document, the Future Slave Act, requires the arrest and deportation of slaves. So there is a historical problem, and it has impacted our community for years. during the civil rights era, the government feared black youth and felt that the prison system was an answer for social control, to prevent protest movements. Right after the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, the government implemented a law, the Anonymous Street Control and Crime Safety Act of 1968, which was designed to criminalize and penalize the civil rights movement. This paved the way for mass incarceration.
Well, this is an issue, and that's important history of how in some of this incarceration stemming from. So what do you think, Mr. Thompson, would be a solution to preventing future mass incarceration, or how do we start to trim this down now and come to a resolution of, per se, getting the young to go to be educated or learn the trade versus being in the streets or committing crime and going into prison?
Well, one of the things is I spoke to Channel 12 News in the aftermath of the death of a young school student named Kelly Green. And what I had suggested that we introduce a concept of conflict resolution into the school system to de-escalate the violence among school children. We find that there's a lot of gun violence in the school system. So if we were able to bring in that kind of program where we can sit down and talk to the youth, particularly people who have been formerly incarcerated, can relate their experience to some of these young people, perhaps we can guide them on the right track.
Well, that's very important. It's a good point, because those with experience, they are supposed to be the best teacher, right? So if we find those who's truly, who comes out of prisons and who's truly committed to make a change and help the young, they would seem to be a good teacher in guiding them to say, look, this is not the road you want to go down, because these are all the bumps you're going to hit, and they're not necessary, and it's not good for you. It's better you pick up bumps or books and learn, or trade, or whatever the case, but who's the best teacher more so than the experience. And that's why it's a good thing you've started your organization, because at least you now want to be able to go and help the young and guide them away from this situation, this crisis. And this is what local governments should be doing. The district attorney's office and local elected officials should be contracting with people like you and giving you contracts to go in and even hold a program in the schools. Make it part of the school curriculum, because it's starting with the young. You just said if they was to institute the program. So we should institute it in our schools at a young age to catch it there. And I know, Ms. Ccroskey, I know you're going to deal with a different subject, but what's your take on it?
Well, what I found in schools that not a lot of their parents are getting involved with their children's lives. They're allowing them, they're giving them too much room, right? And as I was a child growing up, I didn't have that attention. So today we need to start paying attention to our children and worrying about what's going on in their lives. Because I believe as parents, we can help resolve the problems that's happening in the world today, especially among
starting at home.
Started at home. Everything starts at home. Because I feel that a lot of children are acting out maybe because of problems in home. You understand?
That's a good point. And there's a lot of issues where single parents, where there's no fathers in the homes, which contributed to the child going and overpowering his mother and not listening and then going into streets, etc. There's so many different causes, but like you say, that's a good point. We have to go back to the basis of focusing at home.
Exactly.
What we do at home, what we teach them at home, how we discipline them at home, that all makes a difference.
What makes a difference is parents, sometimes we have a single father, but if it's very important both parents and child, even if they're not in the home, because a child should have both. A mother's job is to do a mother's job, and a father's job.
Right. That's absolutely correct. So, Mr. Thompson, what would be some of the things or what are some of the things you teach, or you would go into the schools and teach the young in your program?
Well, I would go into schools and create workshops. We can even do skits. But mainly, I would invite people who have been formerly incarcerated. Of course, I think their stories need to be told. I think these young people need to understand that they're not by themselves, and let them see that how these lives were interrupted, right? So that their lives, they won't repeat the same mistakes as these men did. I think it's very important that we have that dialogue between the formerly incarcerated and the youth. You know.
Well, that's very important. I'm hoping that's why it's so important, and it's good that we have this Power Talk show, that we're able to bring the uncommon, which seems to be uncommon platforms or issues, but they're very crucial to our people and community, and has to be brought to the surface to be discussed. That's why I'm happy you and Kiesha's here today, and we're going to go over so much stuff and things about what's happening. And one of the very disturbing things that that really bothers me is every day when I turn on my news and I watch it, before the news ends, it always pops up a picture of a child saying, missing child, 13 years old, 12 years old, 15, 16. And I'm saying, I see once in a, if I seen it once every year or something, I was okay, this is going on. Maybe the child ran away from home, etc., whatever. I don't know. But I see it every night. So you telling me a missing child in our local communities are missing every night, is missing every day, 1 or 2 per day, and there's no follow-up reports of have they ever been found, have they ever been returned, or what? Or what is the root of it? What is happening to them? Are they being snatched away? I don't know what's going on. There's so many other thoughts and ideas, but I think we need to put attention on this, find out from law enforcement what is going on with this case. I've never seen where so many young are being taken away out of our communities, talking about missing child. And these are young children, 12 years old, 13 years old, 15. So, Mr. Cross, I'm glad you're here today. That we're going to get into it and shine some light on it, but maybe you could tell us the purpose of your organization.
Well, my organization, Seeds for Growth and Development, we provide a safe environment for human trafficking, domestic violence, and homelessness in New York. Our organization is to reduce crime against women, men, and women.
And it's a shame what's going on that you mentioned the trafficking. This is another. Yes. I mean, this is like a hardened crime for people to be taking these young children of ours in our communities and using them throughout the cities or the state and even throughout the world. You got international trafficking going on where they're using these young children for prostitution. No one's saying anything about it.
Modern day slavery is here, and we need to help put a stop to it. It's never really left.
I think we need some of that war money put into these issues as well.
Exactly.
Because this is another war on our children.
It's another war. It's a war. It's a battle. It's a battle. We are in a battle war, and it's called modern day slavery. Modern day slavery has been around since centuries. Now, like you mentioned, a lot of our children are being missed. in New York alone. 13,000 people has been reported missing.
Over what period of time?
Or since this last year.
1 year's time?
1 year
Wow.
time. If you Google, I just Googled it today, just to keep up with the statistics that's happening in New York.
Wow.
13,000 people is missing. Where are they? We don't know. Someone had to. Okay. People blame it on the children running away. Where are they running away to?
But I find it hard to believe that every child that's missing or that they say is missing is a runaway child.
Exactly.
Because especially when you're finding all these things or hearing afterwards how these kids been raped, some have been killed, etc. And I just think that there's somebody's putting an effort into doing some kidnapping of these children. And who, I don't know. I would love to get to the root and know who it is. But I think our government is going to have to put some more effort into doing something about this. It's going too far now, and I'm seeing way too many missing children photos on my TV screen every day. And the thing about it is local, right in our local communities. I'm right here in New York, in Bronx, New York. But I'm sure there's others throughout the country and throughout the world. You have in Africa and Asia and even in Europe. So it's not just focused or isolated in one place. This is a big issue, huge issue. And all local governments need to be focusing, and especially with law enforcement, on getting to the root of these traffickers, who they are, and they need to be brought to justice. This is unacceptable. With our children or with any children, and something should be done about it. But we're going to talk more about it right after this break.
Right, I want to bring up.
Welcome to the world of Millennium News 24. We bring news, we analyze news, and we make a bridge between you and the eventful world. 24/7, Millennium News 24 team is at your service. Don't miss today's America, Editorial Today, and Global Democracy with host Tofader Noor. You also won't want to miss Todd Goldfinger's show, Goldfinger Music Hour, Noon News with host Todd Goldfinger. And to stay connected with all top and trending news, don't even miss Millennium News Hour with host Tanziba Nouri. Millennium News 24 is available to be watched free for all LED TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV, and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia, available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network, and Horizon Satellite globally. Millennium TV 24 News, news you need to know.
Welcome back to Power Talk on Millennium TV 24 with my guest, Mr. Gregory Thompson of National De-Incarceration Network, Ms. Kiesha-Nccroskey with the Siege for Growth Incorporation. As we was just into the talk about sex trafficking, Ms. McCroskey, I'm just wondering now, you were saying before we took a break that it was, I find it hard to believe that all of these children are just runaway children. And you say they're not, and you say for sure it's people who purposely taking these children off the streets. Why do you say that?
Well, human trafficking, this is a connection of why these children are being missed. First is 4 types of human trafficking. We have sex exploitation, labor, forced labor, organ removal, domestic substitute, and drug. All of those are human trafficking. And trafficking looks for those who that the
Vulnerable,
perpetrators seek to have them get them for their own needs. Now, I'm a survivor of human trafficking. I was taken from my home, not taken, but I was introduced to sex trafficking at an early age of 13. And I was trafficked at the age of 13 by a friend of the family. And you know what, Eric, I do human trafficking training, right? I've been doing it for the last couple of weeks. Through my research, I've been finding more and more things on human trafficking. And it's very important that people understand what that means. What is that like? Because you don't know if you have been exposed to it or someone you know might be involved with that, because you don't know the signs.
Right. So that's why it's good that at least your organization is out now doing workshops and bringing in level, increasing the awareness for people to know how to detect these things in their households, because many of the children are coming home and their parents not knowing what's going on with their child when they go out the door. So at least now with the awareness level, parents could know what to look for and how to spot certain things. And most of all, have a place they could reach out to someone who has the experience to know how to intervene and help.
Rick, I need to tell you something really bad news. You know, human trafficking starts in the home, that a parent can actually traffic their children.
Yeah, I've heard those cases.
And it's
before.
happened.
Yeah.
It's happening.
And it's still happening. Yeah, I know.
It's still happening.
Yes.
And that's why it's not being talked about.
Yeah.
Because it's silent, and it's time to break the silence. That's what my organization is, breaking the silence on human trafficking.
And this probably has a connection or cross-referencing to probably dealing with the criminal justice system too. Mr. Thompson, wouldn't you think that something of this nature with sex trafficking, maybe the kids will grow up brokenhearted and maybe some may go into life of crimes behind this and lead into other things, or may be used for trafficking drugs and caught. Now it was used for drug trafficking and now they're caught with drugs and now they're sent into a prison for this reason. And so it's hand in hand.
Yeah, I think that both of these issues are inextricably linked to one another. That's why me and Kiesha, directors of Seeds for Growth and Development, we have, we're making partnership and through a collaborative effort. We understand that a lot of women who are incarcerated, those who have been formerly incarcerated, have a background either in domestic violence or sex trafficking. And this may have triggered the decision to do something and wind up behind prison bars. Mm-hmm. So we are both making that collaborative effort because we understand that we both have a similar goal. We're working very closely together. Mm-hmm. And she's correct. I think a lot of that starts in the home. I think, and you made a very interesting point, that parents should be more vigilant, right? Mm-hmm. And pay more attention to their children, right? That's important. Many parents tell their children before leaving the household how to deal with police if police stop, because it can easily escalate into a very dangerous situation.
Yes.
And I think that the same should be true. Parents should also sit their children down and explain to them that they have a risk of being incarcerated, right? And, you know, prepare the child, you know. So these things are very important.
I think, Mr. Ccroskey, I think our local governments, our city councils, our state senates, assembly, even our Congress people, we need to launch a more aggressive statewide, nationwide, global campaign against this. We should put more monies into people an organization like yourself and Mr. Thompson to tackle these things and increase the awareness level and the outreach. Awareness is one thing, but we definitely need counselors, psychiatrists, people who are tormented mentally and from the abuse and so on. So we need more of these things. We need funds put into these programs and to address the issue. And we need outreach people who go out into the communities. Some of these people are afraid to come in. So we need to go out into these communities and have contact with these young people. If you open up, you'll be surprised who out there may come to you and say, Miss, can I talk to you? Or Sir, may I speak with you? And you can sit down, and it starts with dialogue. It starts with outreach. It starts with showing that you care and understand. So we need to move this campaign forward and increase the level of awareness. And we need to start focusing on our local elected officials. You know, you're there for a reason and a purpose, and we should address not just one thing, but the multiple crises and issues that exist in our community. And I think this is a priority one. Personally, this is a priority because you talk about our young children, young girls being taken away, kidnapped, taken away, 11, 12 years old. That's a crime. And then used and abused for all of these years. It's a crime. And it's a level of a crime that needs to be addressed more immediately. And these people who's doing it, the bar of sentencing needs to be raised and show that this is serious and that is going to be serious action against those who do this. In some countries, they would probably execute you if you did this.
That's right.
That's how serious it is.
That's right.
But the good America here, you know, protects that from the people, those in society. But it's a serious crime. So we're going to continue to move on with this. So what other services do you?
So yes, I was getting ready to get to that. So this is why I started a resource center. I have a resource center.
That's great.
Right in the Bronx, South Bronx.
Seeds for Growth.
Seeds for Growth and Development.
I saw the nice site up on Facebook and everything else.
Exactly. So the resource center provide wraparound services, right? We work with low-income families and provide them resources, advocacy, workshops, GED programs, and most and foremost, it helps connect with other organizations. And that's the key to the resource center. We want to join forces with other organizations so we can provide a safe environment for our low-income people and better resources.
Yes, I'm glad that this is being done. You're like the first of an organization that I've heard exist. I mean, really, after all of my time in service and community, I've never seen anything where a person can say, you know what, where can I go, or who's helping people for sex trafficking or child abuse or elderly, whatever, you know. And this is important, so I wish you the best.
But you know what, Erica, there's other organizations out there. They just need to come out more and do more footwork to make an awareness that they're there. They're there to help, because a lot of people just don't know what to do when they come across that issue with their children of being sex trafficked, runaways. Why are they running away? And a lot of these things is connected. That's why the organization should really do more outreach.
And this is something the viewers and the listeners could learn from, regardless of where you may live at or what geographical area you are in. A child's a child, and this is across the board issue. It has nothing to do with any color, race, religion.
Right.
This is a human rights issue that has to be dealt with across the board, wherever you may be. So I think we need to start to focus more on pushing to our local electeds and talking about this issue and taking action, not waiting long to take action. We know what it is. We know what needs to be done. We need to start a campaign immediately around this and around this issue and come up with more solutions and to reach out with people like Kiesha. I know you're open to speak to other people outside your neighborhood and community, correct?
Very much
So they can reach out. How do they reach your organization?
Well, they can go to my website, Growth and Development. It's abbreviated. It's sfgadinc.org. Or I'm on Facebook. I'm on all social media.
That's great.
So if they just Google the name, it will come up. And that's how they can reach out.
And maybe you could help do consultation or help others form like a group like yours in other areas as well. And you could start a global network.
So the Resource Center is not only just a resource center. We also have space in the back where we can actually do events. We have an event space. If other organization wants to do some work, like it's in alignment what we're doing. Also
workshops or whatever. That's great.
It's open for that. So the resource is a community.
And the good thing, I hear that the mayor of New York has reached out and with you and looking and to work with your organization, actually, which is very great.
Yes, so they're starting up a workshop that they helping non-for-profit like ourselves get some funding, because a lot of us, we spend our own money. I spend my own money, and I'm doing this without funding. And right now, it's really, I can do more if I just can get to the donation, the resources, the funding, the support.
Well, you will grow because the issue's important enough. What was that movie that was out about sex trafficking?
It's called Freedom, the Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. I've been trying to see that movie for so long. I guess I could probably go and get it and watch it. Everyone told me it was a great movie to see. It didn't get enough attention, but I think those who didn't see should probably go out and check to watch the movie Sound of Freedom.
If you Google sex trafficking, you get so many stories. Yes. This is how I do my training. Yes. I've learned a lot of stuff just on YouTube.
Well, we're going to talk more about that right after this break and get right back into it.
Welcome to the world of Millennium News 24. We bring news, we analyze news, and we make a bridge between you and the eventful world. 24/7, Millennium News 24 team is at your service. Don't miss today's America, Editorial Today, and Global Democracy with host Tofader Noor. You also won't want to miss Todd Goldfinger's show, Goldfinger Music Hour, Noon News with host Todd Goldfinger. And to stay connected with all top and trending news, don't even miss Millennium News Hour with host Tanziba Nouri. Millennium News 24 is available to be watched free for all LED TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV, and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia, available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jadoo TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network, and Horizon Satellite globally. Millennium TV 24 News you need to know.
Welcome back to Power Talk, Millennium TV 24. And once again, I'm your host, Eric Stevenson. And we're going to go into the last segment of our show here with Kiesha-Nccroskey from Siege for Growth and Mr. Greyay Thompson with the National Decarceration Movement. As you've just heard, we've been talking about two very important, critical issues that exist in our communities and our society, with sex trafficking, the high rates of incarcerations of our young, which needs to be tackled. And I'm glad we have two great people here who has the heart and concern to go out and say, you know what, money or no money, I'm going to do it with what I have and what I can. I know Ms. Nccroskey has been doing it herself and Mr. Thompson as well. But down the line, we hope people will see their good works and their great love for doing something about this for our young and for our young children and to prevent this pipeline from school to prison, and also this pipeline from the street into sex trafficking throughout our local city, state, and country. So we'll continue to work on the side of good. We'll continue to contribute on the side of good, despite who disagrees with it, despite those who's against it, despite those who doesn't care. We're going to stand on the side of good, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to do what we can with our breath that the great God gives us to speak and to teach and educate on these issues. Just moving forward, Mr. Thompson, I know it's a good thing that you kind of cross-joined or collaborated with Kiesha, and the purpose is clear about what you're saying in the classrooms to start these pilot programs of interaction with the young people who have the experience of being in prisons and being able to talk to the young and tell them the reasons why they don't want to be in prisons or why they shouldn't be in prisons, and also how they prevent going to prisons. I mean, look, accidents happen. I mean, some guys you have who's not criminals, who's not criminal-minded, who gets out and go in a car accident by accident and kill someone, and they charge them manslaughter, and they go into a prison. It wasn't intentional, it was accident. And we understand it, but these things happen, and it has happened. But getting to the root, like in the schools, what other ways do we get to those who's not in the schools, like kids who dropped out of schools, in the streets? How do we tackle this?
Well, I have worked with a lot of local ministers in the community. We're trying to put on events that would target the youth. What I began to realize is that a lot of the prison culture has been reintroduced into society, and it's a form of glorification. And we need to find a way to dispel that. But before I forget, let me say this on piggybacking on what we should talk about earlier. I think one of the biggest perpetrators of domestic violence is the prison system, which tears children away from mothers and children away from fathers, right? So we need to address that. The conjugal program that the prison has is, it's just a brothel, or,
There's no doubt reform is needed there too, because things could be done better on both sides, And
another point I would like to make is that we have to also give credit to some of the religious organizations that have been involved in prison ministry. The Reverend Herbert Daughtry was very big on that.
Great man, I know him. Yeah.
He came into the prison system and he started the first House of the Lord Church. I think that was a wonderful thing. And as a result of that, I have been inspired, and a lot of other...
It's great they gave a spiritual message to help people in reforming their thought and all. That's great, yeah.
And another religious organization is the Quakers.
Quakers, yeah.
They also have a prison ministry. And I think that these efforts, cannot be minimized, because they're really doing something, to transform the lives of many incarcerated people. And I think that's very important. I just want to mention it.
How do we bring this message now to those out in the streets, like who might have dropped out of school, who's not there to get this message in the schools, who's not getting it in the households? How do we approach it on the street level?
Well, I learned from the Nation of Islam. These brothers were out on the street speaking to brothers, giving them the Muhammad Speaks newspaper, and getting that message out. So we can use that same methodology to try to reach the youth in our neighborhoods. Some of us are afraid. I see people confining themselves to church every Sunday because they're afraid to go out on the street. But Jesus taught the social gospel. In order for you to teach the social gospel, you have to be out there in the streets. You've got to be among the people. You can't see sanctuary inside the church. So the churches have to get involved, Everybody has to get involved. One thing I realized is that during the civil rights movement, all of those older women and men, they got out there with Dr. King, and they was out there in the community, and they were raising the awareness.
Many of them were beaten by the police on the front line.
Exactly.
Elderly women
so we need,
fighting for this.
We need to go back to that, you know, to get that message out.
Well, the change is needed. And my only concern is that, you know, you hate to see the future of a young man taken away when they could have been the next doctor who discovered a medicine or a cure for cancer or a cure for diabetes. But yet, they were misguided and taken away and ruined. Many has reformed, they come out and still made a great life for themselves. You have many stories out there of great men who've made mistakes, who've come out, reformed themselves, they get that spiritual message as you talked about, and that God-fearing message, and say, you know what, I'm going to do the godly thing, and they've done that and been very successful at it. There's so many out there like that that's unknown and not talked about, that exists. And so we hope, Mr. Thompson, your organization will grow more. You would get more assistance and people partnering with you and to do more outreach and awareness and actually street soldier work, like you say, to go to the communities. You know, if you're afraid to talk to them, then why bother? How are you going to get to them? You can't do everything on the Zoom. They don't go on the Zoom and want to talk to you on Zoom. Through the mail, etc., or giving out flyers, that's just like a way to pass the buck. Here's a flyer, go home, read it, and change your life. No, it doesn't do the job. I know it's in campaigning when a politician or elected officials, when you run for office or re-election, old days, we would always give out a political brochure or flyer. Years ago, that's what it was. That did the job. You would mail. If people liked your message in the mail, what they read, they vote for you. Nowadays, it's a waste of money. People want to see you face to face. They want to feel your soul. They want to feel your spirit. They want to know exactly who you are and what you're about, and if you're genuine in what you're saying and speaking of. So I know you are genuine, and Kiesha's genuine, right, because you're doing it without funding. But later down the line, I'm sure you will find some people who will be supportive of you and will help your organization grow, who would take love in it and say, you know what, we support this, even though we don't have time to go out and do this, but we want it addressed. Here's something to help your organization move forward. But in the meanwhile, your engines are continuing to run. You're you're keeping the forward movement, and that's great. So Kiesha, I just feel so strong, and like I said, every time I turn on the TV and I see a missing child, and on this first show tonight, we was gonna have some other guests come to talk about some other topics, but I said, wait a minute, you know, let's start with some real human rights issues. And one of the things I wanted to address is this thing I see on TV every day about a missing child. And I said, who's going to speak about that? And you came right to mind. And I said, wow, because I don't know too many other organizations that's dealing with it. So you came right to mind, and you was able to shine some light on that, and about the crimes in the streets. Every time I'm looking out in the streets or the television, I'm seeing all these young shooting with guns, killing, and I'm like, we have to do something about it. If it means that we have to start through speaking about it and planning and coming up with solutions and dealing with it, we have to do it. We can't rely on government, because government has seemed to have failed us in many ways. Their solution and answer is lock them up. Well, I think what Greyay Thompson does is a better solution than the government, because he doesn't say lock them up. He said, let's get to the root before they commit a crime. Let's get them on track. Let's get them into places and resource centers like what Kiesha has. Let's get them into a GED program if they don't have their diploma. Let's get them on the road to education, to a college. Or if you want to trade, there's many trade unions who have apprenticeship programs. Let's get them in. They have great minds. If you want to learn to be an electrician, a carpenter, a plumber, etc., hey, believe it or not, they make some great salaries. So, and you're able to go into entrepreneurship, have your own business. So much that can be done, but we need leadership. We need love. We need concern. And we need action. And that's why, and that's what we're about here on Power Talk TV. So Kiesha, if you have anything to say as we prepare to close, I'll let you tell the viewers as we prepare to close.
What I would like to say, Eric, is not one man can do it alone. There are some good ones out there that's doing work, but they need our help as well. They need people to get involved. People don't want to get involved. They don't care, one, or they don't feel that that's not something that's happening in their life. So let somebody else. But what happens if you come across someone that you know, someone in your family might be going through? You gotta reach out. It's important for us to unite together, right? Number one, and find out what the community needs, the cries are in the community. Since I open up the resources, I find a lot of men have been coming into the office in pain because they don't have a lot of resources.
Yes, it's not just
it's just not just women. And women, let me just say this. Men are being trafficked and abused just as much as women. They're hurting. They need a way out. They need someone that can help them because there's a lot of programs for women, and I thank God for that. But we need to help our men out.
I'll tell you what, we're going to take a break, and we're going to let you close out and tell the viewers what you want to tell them from their heart, and we're going to let Mr. Thompson do the same right after this break.
Okay, thanks.
This is the last break.
I know.
Welcome to the world of Millennium News 24. We bring news, we analyze news, and we make a bridge between you and the eventful world. 24/7, Millennium News 24 team is at your service. Don't miss today's America, Editorial Today, and Global Democracy with host Tofader Noor. You also won't want to miss Todd Goldfinger's show, Goldfinger Music Hour, Noon News with host Todd Goldfinger. And to stay connected with all top and trending news, don't even miss Millennium News Hour with host Tanziba Nouri. Millennium News 24 is available to be watched free for all LED TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV, and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia, available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jadu TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network, and Horizon Satellite globally. Millennium TV 24 News you need to know.
Welcome back to Power Talk on Millennium TV 24 with your host here again. I'm Eric Stevenson, and we have two great guests that I'm grateful for coming out on a rainy day like this today to come and be on my show. Kiesha-Nccroskey with the Seeds of Growth, Mr. Gregory Thompson with the National Decarceration Network. As you've just heard, some of us in life take different roads to do different things. I want this to be a show today about your conscience. If you could find good in yourself and could look within yourself and into your heart and say that what we're speaking of today is a good topic and you want to make a change in it and you believe in it, then you should do something about it. You should join in. If you can't do the work, here's the people who's doing the work. Reach out to their organization. See how you can help. See how you can volunteer. See how you could and contribute to awareness campaigns, whether it's starting it in your own community or city or state, whatever the case may be. But we have to become the change we wish to see in the world. We can't keep calling others and relying on others to tell them, you should do that or you should do this. Because if they don't do it, it would never happen. So the best way is to become the example is by becoming the change you wish to see. Then the change will exist and other people can learn from it and replicate it and follow and do it over and do their locations. So with that, we're going to close out our show. But before that, I would like to, the viewers to hear some closing remarks from our two guests here. I wish we had more time, but it's over. But we'll be back next week on other topics. So stay with us because we got the Power Talk Show. And believe me, it's not named that for just any reason. It's because we're going to deal with power in all subjects and topics. And I'm talking about we'll be going into nutrition, we'll be going into health, we'll be going to government and so much different things with the madness that's going on in Washington, D.C. and everywhere. We're going to deal with so much. Just make sure you fix your dial and tune in onto this show because put your seatbelts on, but we're going to take off. So, Mr. Thompson, I'm going to let you tell the viewers in your own words what you wish to say before we close out.
Well, in short, I think that society has to become more proactive. Understand that crime is the number one enemy. Society has been desensitized to a lot of these issues. Preventive detention and incapacitation is not a deterrent to crime, and that's evident by the continuing crime rates. So we have to find another alternative to try to de-escalate this problem. So society has to get more involved. I think one of the greatest examples is the life of Malcolm X. This is a young man that went to prison. It was through the prison ministry of the Nation of Islam that this brother's life was transformed. So it was a life of reinvention. And I think if a Malcolm can do that with the criminal background he had, I don't think that it's impossible for a lot of other young people to follow that example. And with that, I conclude.
Yes. And Ms. McCroskey, what would you like to tell our viewers on our first day of our show, who's listening, who has an open heart, and who wants to so much see an input to this pipeline of our young being put into trafficking and all of these things that's going on?
Well, everyone's, if you give to it what you may find happiness. What I'm saying is, there's people, and there just might be someone in the back, in your own back, might be going through something. How you can help, helping organizations, give donations, give care services. You know, a lot of people don't like to get involved with human trafficking because they feel like it's horrific and people don't feel like it's a need.
Well, it is.
It's a need.
Young
It's
people
a
is
need.
traumatized.
So let us do the work. Donate. Help us save a life. Help us prevent another child from being missed. Or help us be there for them when they do return home. We can help build their life. Because most of it is bottom line is human trafficking. That's where it falls boiled down. So if you would like to help, I have a resource center right in the Bronx, 1281 Avenue. Okay, or you can go to my website, Seeds for Growth and Development, and I'm on all social media. It's not hard to find. Get involved in children's lives. Get involved with learning how we can save the life of yourself. Because guess what? All right, no one is exempt from that. The perpetrators don't care what you look like. It starts from when in a mother's womb until an older.
It's like a flu.
It's
No
like
one's
a
exempt
flu.
from getting the
No
flu.
one is being exempt from it. And if you think that, like, I find like a lot of parents that's so busy, they feel that they can just survive, help their children by providing them with, you know, clothes and stuff. They need your time. They need to know what's going on in your life.
That's great.
They have to get involved.
Well, we thank you for that, Mr. Crosky and Mr. Thompson. A good group, and it's a good thing you're collaborating and working together, because it's two issues that actually work hand in hand in our society with what happens out there. So we wish you the best. We'll have you back again one day, but we'll continue to be supportive of the cause and making sure we have a better society, more upright young youth, and that we have a better crime-free community. We can't get to the bottom of it if we don't tackle it. You can't bring a person down if you don't tackle them. I always refer to that in the football game when the guy's running with the ball. If you don't bring him down, he makes it to the finish line. And so we want to tackle them and not let them make this thing get to the finish line of being successful in high crime and being successful in trafficking our children. We want to bring them down. We want to bring it down. And we want to get to the finish line of being successful in doing it. So I thank you all for listening. Looking forward to next week. I thank Millennium TV for the opportunity and time here. And once again, this is Power Talk with Eric Stevenson. Wish you all a great afternoon, evening. Thank you.